All right, so thanks for coming, guys. I hope you liked it. I know it definitely changed my life, and hopefully it'll change some of y'all's lives. I've probably seen it now more times than I've seen Field of Dreams, but I still get some of the same inspiration from it, of hope and optimism, because people that you see like Sandera and Joey, these aren't like anomalies that they scoured the nation for to put in a propaganda movie, because I see it every day in the office. Every single day, these same results. So the possibility is there, the hope is there, and like the firefighter said, it is easy. It's not easy to make the change, but it's not asking you to do too much. Just eat more plants. So it's hard to change your habits. It's hard to change your way of thinking. It's hard to do things differently than you see everyone around you doing. It is against the norm, but it's not hard to eat more plants if you just are determined to do it. And the benefits are obvious. So I'm happy to take any questions that you have, and I'll try and remember to repeat them in case y'all can't hear them in the back. Go ahead.
They mentioned several times and corrected themselves, you on a plant-based diet, and they would say whole foods plant-based
Sure.
diet. What exactly is the difference between a whole foods plant, other than the grocery store?
Sure.
Whole foods plant-based diet and a plant-based?
Yeah, so I think they're two unique concepts. She asked, what's the difference between a whole food plant-based diet and a plant-based diet? You know, plant-based diet is simply eating more plants. Fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, whole grains, oatmeal, rice, quinoa. The whole foods is sort of referring to foods in more of their natural state, meaning whole grains, oats instead of oat flour, quinoa instead of quinoa flour. Foods that exist more in their natural unprocessed state. So unprocessed foods and plants. Go ahead.
The movie suggested that a woman with breast cancer could solve the problem with diet, and I was a little concerned about that statement.
So he asked about curing breast cancer with diet, and I think that was probably an oversimplification, trying to put thousands of man-hours of time and energy and studies into an hour and a half long movie. But I think that there is a lot of research out there regarding prostate cancer, colon cancer, and breast cancer, and outcomes after, the quality of outcome, longevity afterwards. And I think the possibility of controlling a lot of these diseases, the evidence is there. I don't think it's a magic wand. You can't get diagnosed with breast cancer, start being a vegan, and cure breast cancer. But your chance of survival, the outcome afterwards probably is modulated. And it may be oversimplified to say you can cure it, but I think preventing cancer, the data is definitely there. There's a lot more data in prevention of cancer than there is in treatment of cancer. And that was probably a slight oversimplification. In the back, go ahead.
There have been similar results from people who have been on, say, the paleo diet or the Atkins diet, which actually are sort of the reverse of what you have here.
Yeah.
How are those explained?
Well, there's a lot of great, if you use the internet and YouTube, you can see a lot of debates between doctors who, Dr. Atkins, for example, and Dr. Dean Ornish, who advocates for a plant-based diet. And they talk about the differences in the results. And from my understanding and my experience in the office, you see very similar results maybe in weight loss between the two diets, but in none of the patients that I ever had on a Atkins-style diet did I ever see complete reversal of disease in weeks. Diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So I think disease reversal versus weight loss is how my clinical experience, and I think that the experts would both explain the differences. Okay.
Dr. Weinstein, how old was your oldest patient that you started on a reversal process?
In the 80s, low 80s.
Could I ask a follow-up question, which is, I missed most of the movie, but is there anything you could do to reduce arterial plaque?
Sure. I guess they show the angiogram of the doctor that Dr. Esselstyn worked with. I think for anyone who couldn't hear in the back, she asked, how old is the oldest patient I've had that has adopted a plant-based diet to try and reverse disease? And the second question was, can we measure whether arterial plaque is reversed?
Or reduced.
You can. I mean, there's great office-based technology now for detecting arterial plaque with ultrasound. Dr. Esselstyn referred to the carotid intimal medial thickening test, and that detects plaque buildup in our carotid arteries. And you can compare those. Those are very reproducible numbers that you can track over time. The amount of time, there's no linear, there's no formula. If you eat this many cucumbers for this long, you'll regress plaque a certain amount. But there's definitely evidence out there, both via angiograms, when they shoot dye in the arteries, and ultrasounds, that show stabilization and reversal of disease. Go ahead, Aaron.
Part of the movie there showed improvement in the pancreas production. So, how about kidneys?
Sure, there's a lot of evidence out there. Well, he asked how this kind of diet can affect kidney function. So there are a lot of evidence out there that talks about how high protein diets put strain on the kidneys. The kidneys filter the body, and when you put large amounts of protein to the kidneys to be filtered, it can cause damage to the lining of the kidneys. So my personal experience is I have seen an improvement in kidney function, even if it was not a pathologic decrease in kidney function, with adoption of a plant-based diet. But yeah, I want to clarify that we're talking about, you asked about the protein. So a plant-based diet contains a ton of protein, but I think it's the kind of protein that makes the kidneys happier. I have a question in the back first.
I met Dr. McDougall.
Oh yeah?
He has a website, drmcdougall.com, a free newsletter, and hundreds of case studies. And I've had people, friends who've done that, and if they take his advice 100%, the problem goes away.
Yeah.
So drmcdougall.com, free newsletter, the guy's brilliant.
Yeah, Dr. McDougall was on the forefront. He was speaking about this when people thought he was probably crazy, and so
He had his first heart attack when he was 21 years old, and now he's 65. He's healthier than he was 50 years ago.
there are a lot of pioneers in the field out there, like Dr. McDougall, that have got great resources out there. Dr. Dean Ornish, Caldwell Esselstyn, Colin Campbell, Joel Furman. So there's a lot of good doctors with providing good research out there. Go ahead.
What about eating fish? Is that considered?
So the question is fish considered eating meat? And the answer is yes. Probably in some ways, fish might be a better choice for people who are trying to limit their animal protein, because of most fish or many deep water fish have a favorable omega-3, which is in fish oil ratio. Omega-3s are the good fatty acids, omega-6s are the bad fatty acids. So fish definitely has a better profile of that. But we're talking about following a plant-based diet for reversal of disease. Fish might be a better choice, but still minimal fish would be in the prescription. And again, all the individualized healthcare is important. There's no formula. There's no formula that we can plug each of you into and have an optimal outcome. You have to have an individualized plan, proper screening and identification of disease, and proper treatment options for disease. Okay, go ahead.
Well, is it McDougall D-O-U or D-O-O?
DOU.
And what about dealing with thyroid issues, like hypothyroid?
I think you're asking hypothyroidism or underactive thyroid, and what is the relationship between plant-based diets. So I guess from my experience with hypothyroidism, I haven't seen a significant improvement in the function of the thyroid gland personally. I think the problem we face with hypothyroidism is the vast underdiagnosis that we have because of the reliance on the blood tests and the ignoring of the patient's history. So two probably separate problems.
So, are you saying if you follow this type of diet that it's quantity is not important or it's unrelated? I mean, I personally know two people that are vegans that are fairly obese.
Sure.
So, what does that mean, and what is your primary resource for how to eat?
Okay, so she's asking if you follow a plant-based diet, is quantity of food an issue or not? And you can. I have patients in my practice as well who think that peanut butter jelly sandwiches and popsicles is following a healthy plant-based diet, and it's not. Believe it or not. So I mean, you could trick any system to fit a set of rules. So, but that's the best part about plant-based dieting is it takes you from a mindset of deprivation, counting calories, avoidance of certain types of fats, to saying, whole foods. That's the whole foods aspect of the dilemma that you were asking. Someone asked about is the whole foods, right? So the whole foods. If you're eating whole grains, whole plants, vegetables, the odds of getting into that position are minimal. I mean, I have never seen weight loss not come along with. For most of my patients, weight loss isn't the primary reason they adopt a diet like this. But 0 of them have ever not lost weight. So, go ahead.
I just, as an opening point, I really like cheese.
Yeah.
I really like cheese. This is a little bit of a conflict for me. But just from, I guess, an analytical standpoint, has there been much focus on the difference between organic and not organic and the impact of pesticides?
Okay, so the question is, first was a statement for cheese. And then asking whether organic or pesticide or hormone-free choices are better. And so I think those are, I mean, that's an unrelated question, but pertinent because we're talking about health. So cheese is animal protein and heavy in fat, and if you are trying to accomplish accomplish goals such as reversal of disease, you would want to minimize. I think no one in the diet, none of the doctors in the movie talk about, use the word vegan. It's about plant-based. So I think that there's a role for some cheese, maybe in most plant-based diets, but it would depend upon what you're trying to accomplish and what your medical problems are. The organic and pesticide question, I mean, that's something we fight even in the plant-based world. So it's not like organic cheese or organic chickens or grass-fed beef versus commercial beef. I mean, the same impurities and agribusiness attack plant-based diets as far as artificial, hybridized wheats, pesticides used in the corn. I mean, it's a separate but related battle. We're all fighting for our health, so we're fighting pesticides and agribusiness and genetically modified foods, and we're also trying to reverse disease with plant-based diets. So, does that help at all?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Go over here.
Growing up in school, I always heard about complete proteins.
Yeah.
That you had to have, in order for proteins to work, you had to have all the amino acids.
Right.
So you had to have beans and rice, put them together in one meal.
Yeah.
So how does that work? I always thought that you could get a complete protein in a product.
So the question was about complete. The term complete proteins. A complete protein is referred to as a food source that contains all 9 essential amino acids that our body cannot make. And the argument for animal was always that animal was the only place you could find complete proteins. And it's true that all animal has complete protein in it. However, there's 2 answers to your question. Number one is foods like quinoa, which is a seed or a grain similar to in consistency to rice, is a complete protein. Hopefully you'll see that in a newsletter I wrote about recently for a Snap Kitchen who does great healthy to-go prepared foods. But it is a complete protein. So yes, there are plants that are complete proteins, number one. And I think that the research now, because there are so many people studying plant-based diets, shows that all of the essential amino acids do not have to come in the same bite of food or the same meal of food. You can have some brown rice for breakfast and some broccoli at lunch, and you can cobble together all of the essential amino acids in a day to follow a strict plant-based diet. Go ahead.
I just want to make a comment to that protein comment. I'm a registered dietitian, and I was very shocked that that registered dietitian that we had in the movie said the statement she did say that the American Dietetics Association, that's what makes me call the National Academy of Dietetics, say that you have to have animal protein. They have a position paper that says you can get a balanced protein sufficient diet on a vegetarian and or vegan diet. So the American Dietetics Association, Academy of Dietetics, however you want to call it, supports
Thank you for that, Stephanie.
What about chocolate?
Oh yeah, good. Good one.
Yeah, what about?
So I wrote a good article about chocolate on my website. If you don't know what that is, it's PlantStrongDoc.com, and I have brochures in the back that have my website and my Facebook. I update those all continually with recipes and try to get these frequently asked questions answered. So chocolate, yeah, so the best part about chocolate is that it's plant-based, for the most part. Except for milk chocolate, there's more milk. But nitric oxide they talked about in the movie, right? About dilating blood vessels and open blood vessels. And that's been proven repeatedly, both in vitro and in vivo, in lab animals and in humans, that nitric oxide is stimulated, the production of nitric oxide is stimulated in people that eat some dark chocolate. We're talking about dark chocolate, not milk chocolate, 70% cacao and higher. So nitric oxide is stimulated and it dilates blood vessels. Kind of like natural Viagra, right? It dilates the blood vessel and allows more blood flow. Also improves serotonin release, serotonin production. So it's like Viagra and Prozac together. So yeah, I mean, but quantity, right? I mean, you asked a question about volume, yes. So if I would tell you that that was a part of a healthy diet, it wouldn't mean that you would eat chocolate, chocolate. Yeah, an ounce of dark chocolate a couple times a week is probably acceptable.
It strikes me, as I was listening to this movie, that it's sort of the inconvenient truth of like our nutrition and diet. What do you think is the tipping point? How close are we to the tipping point for sort of the general American public? Just like sort of inconvenient truth with Al Gore, like kind of brought it to the forefront of our discussion.
Yeah, right.
Do you think we're close to getting to that point, or are we decades? So,
how close are we to the tipping point where our chronic disease and obesity banks up our country and causes an epidemic of disease? That's a great question. There was an article in, I think it was the Wall Street Journal or Reuters, on Reuters this week, that I posted on my Facebook page, and I couldn't believe that it wasn't getting a lot of hits and likes because it was talking about obesity and the cost to society. And it talked about you just driving your car to work. If you have 40 extra pounds and you drive the same 10 miles every day to work, over your lifetime, there's more gas, there's more wear on your tires, there's more wear on the roads. It changes even the physics of your car turning and braking. So, so obesity has repercussions far beyond the quantitative medical number of pills you take. But I mean, the number of pills people are taking is astounding. And when they show like Sandera and these people Joey getting off their medicines, it's not like months and years. It's days and weeks. So you don't have to like suspend disbelief and pray and hope in 6 months from now. I mean, I'll be here. There is improvement on day 1, day 5, day 10, day 12. Go ahead in the back.
Doctor, are you familiar with Dr. Oz?
Sure.
RealAge.com. You take a little test for 20 minutes, and it says, physically I'm 65, but because of the way I eat, like the movie, I'm actually 52. And that diet, the Real Age diet, is exactly the same.
Sure.
And they prove it works. You can take it for free.
Yeah, I think that they're not reinventing the wheel in this movie. There are lots of people that believe this and have followed this, but it still is counterculture. It is anti-establishment. We are in the minority. That's part of why I'm trying to, for people who know me, this is so far outside my box, speaking voluntarily in front of people. Okay? But I feel like we have to speak up. We have to bond together, form a community, and that's what I'm trying to do by hosting free screenings and by posting on my Facebook, and is trying to get people to come together and realize that we can't bury our head in the sand forever and keep popping a pill or hoping everything gets better and goes away. You have a question?
You talked about how people stop taking the pills in a matter of days. Like my parents were on pills and they were told you can't just stop taking these pills. And how do you, can doctors help them slowly, gradually get off? You can't just stop taking it. It's dangerous.
Right. She asked, how quickly can you stop the pills? When do you know to stop the pills? Which pills can you stop? That's just a personal decision between the doctor and the patient. The problem is that I think so few doctors are comfortable with that concept. It is so foreign. We are given prescription pads, but not the tools to take people off. We are taught the tools and given the tools to put people on, but taking them off were not taught. I mean, there's a couple doctors in the audience here, and I think that nutrition was not part of our curriculum. So we never learned how to take you off. So we had to figure it out on our own. Go ahead.
One of the things I've done is to start the
Everyone
patient.
remind me to go back to the corner because I missed that question.
One of the things I've done is started patients on the plant-based diet and have them come in a week or two and start taking medicines off.
Yep.
You know, it's safer for everybody. I mean, we know there won't be any problems, but once we get started, because you can take them off all their medicines and not know if they're going to really do that. You know, so once I know they're doing that, we start taking medicines off. You know.
So he mentioned meeting with patients more frequently to help supervise this, and that's a great point and a disclaimer I want definitely on the record on videotape. Should not be done on your own. Don't stop your medications, talk to your doctor. But yeah, I mean it is. It's about the doctor-patient relationship. You have to understand each other, know where you're coming from, and help, you know, set goals together and make sure you're on the same page. And you know, there's no formula for it. But all right, back corner.
Have you treated any type 2 diabetics, ones that have had it for a while, as opposed to being easily diagnosed with it?
Both, yeah. So the answer is, have I treated type 2 diabetics, both newly treated and who have been on it or have had the diagnosis for a long time? And the answer is yes, both. And that type 2 diabetes is the diagnosis that you have the most dramatic, most astounding response to the disease quickly. Yeah, so patients who have been on insulin I had a woman that had been on insulin for 20 years that got off insulin after 5 days of following this diet. And I spoke to her this afternoon, and her fasting blood sugar when she woke up this morning was 77, and 2 hours after she ate was 99. So yes, long-term and short-term. The most profound is the short-term. If you look at my website, there's in my blog, I talk about myself a little bit, and I talk about 2 patients who came to me and were willing to be some of my first guinea pigs. And the numbers are astounding. In months, we're talking about losing 25% of your body weight, cutting your A1C, which is a test we use to measure diabetes, in half, basically from average sugars of 300 to average sugars of 100. So, and cholesterol, you know, cutting it by 66%, weeks and months. So yes, there have been chronic patients and newly diagnosed patients who are very easily treated when they commit to the lifestyle. Go ahead.
I first read the China study when I think when it came out well, at least I read it in 2004. I'm not sure when it came out. And my girlfriend had breast cancer, and we both went on a vegan diet. And actually, I lost about close to 70 pounds. And it was but I became disenchanted. My girlfriend died. And so basically I just blew it all off. And now I'm actually coming back because I've gained all this weight back since I left the vegan thing, and actually looking at having a step next week. And I'm actually trying to decide whether I really want to do that or not, whether I just want to say, okay, go back to potatoes and veggies, it's hard to, where you get a second opinion.
Sure.
And, my doctor said, hey, look, I want to be able to get you to a point where you can go on that diet. And actually, I'm thinking, no, I just want to go on the diet.
So he was saying that he followed a vegan diet for many years. Started because his girlfriend was diagnosed with breast cancer, and they went out together, and she passed away, and that's why he grew disenchanted with plant-based diets, and now facing some severe medical obstacles himself and weight, is now reevaluating it. But that's what I think is great about this, is that it does offer hope. It is not a miracle cure. It is not a magic wand you can wave in front of everyone and instantly cure the disease, but it stacks the deck in your favor. Stacks the deck in your favor. And for a lot of the young people out there, it's about trying to prevent illness and prevent cancers. I think once you're diagnosed with cancer, it's much more of an uphill battle, and there's less of a chance that the lifestyle is going to work. But There are lots of doctors that have treated patients facing stents, without stents. I think just finding a match. If you want to talk to me afterwards, I might be able to help you point in the right direction. So, is there anything else next? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a type 2 diabetic,
Yes.
and my witch doctor, well, let me reverse that. My witch doctor learned how to read a book to look at symptoms and prescribe medications.
Yes.
When she had done oral medications, every one of them had a side effect called weight gain. And she was trying to tell me, lose weight, and she kept putting me on pills that called weight gain. They're extremely frustrating. So, I'm on insulin now, but this sounds good.
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
she had gone Advania, which caused heart issues, and she decided after I had the heart issue, I had to go on something else, which she put me on Actos, which caused kidney issues.
Yeah.
So, getting off medicine is a good thing.
Exactly. So you're basically lamenting that doctors don't do a good enough job of trying to solve the problems without medications. And right, that's the point, and that's why we're here, and it was why I'm here. And there are side effects to medicines, and that's why we don't just treat the numbers. Whatever pill I have to prescribe to get your cholesterol between this number and this number, whatever pill I have to prescribe to get your blood pressure between this number and this number. In medicine, unfortunately, we're having to fight treating the numbers and have to really focus on treating the patients.
Right.
It's something we have to work at every day, something I work at every day, and I'm not perfect, and I'm trying to get better, and hopefully as a profession we all will look at the way we're doing things.
Yeah, from an individual standpoint, I have reverse reactions to some medications, and a lot of doctors don't want to understand that or don't seem to want to understand that. So here again, getting off the pills, and you have to get you off the pills, you're better off.
Well, you used to realize that we're all here because of the possibilities that are talked about in the movie. But, unfortunately, what we see very often is that there are people that would rather take an hour out of their day once a quarter to go to the doctor, pick up the prescriptions, take them home, and take the pills, rather than spending time fighting the norm, trying to find a restaurant they can eat at, trying to figure out what to cook, how much to cook. It's in a lot of ways it's easier, right? It's this once is easier than all the other hoops you have to jump through, but it's not the solution. It's just sinking ship where you get fingers in the leaks, and eventually you got fingers and toes in the leaks, and then eventually you're overwhelmed with water. So go ahead.
Kind of on the same subject, how hard is this to pitch to your patients? Like, how many percentage of them actually do the plant-based and you see the improvement? How many of them are like, whatever, I'm not down to do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's
How do you not
patients.
get discouraged?
Everyone's different. You have to read the patients to know. I am lucky in that I've had a tremendous health and physical transformation that most of my patients have witnessed in the last 2 years. So I think that is a little bit of
In yourself?
Stacks the deck in my favor a little bit.
I'll verify that. How much did you lose, Dr. Adams?
I mean,
How much?
over 110.
Right.
Wow.
I'm a patient of Dr. Adams, and the difference in what he is today and what he was and what he's convinced, or not convinced, just told us about. I've already lost 15 pounds.
Awesome.
Yeah, for what, 4 weeks?
Goosebumps.
Huh?
I got goosebumps.
I know, me too. I'm not gonna stand up because I still can't lose this, but it's easier than you think. And I think the thing is too, that if we have a home Oak Forest area, we could do a cooking class.
Yeah.
You could, Emily, where is it? Okay, there you go. And we could do a cooking class and do some of these things. Because I think it's so overwhelming to think, how can you do this? And then all of a sudden you start doing it, and then you find out all of this stuff that you love, artichokes, that you don't stuff them, you just cook them. And it just goes on, and there's one thing after the other. Sorry, I don't need to take away your stage.
Well, that's a good point for tasting and stuff.
I know.
People like these things get off of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had one piece of red meat, and I'm like, oh, I'm taking this home to the dogs. The dogs like it much better than I did. It's too hard to digest after you've been off of it. It just doesn't. But I shrimp and fish. Oh, and
awesome.
cheese. Where's your friend?
Yeah, that's good. So to finish answering your question, so I've got that working for me. However, I think that when people feel bad, they're much more likely to change than when there's a number that you're handing them a pill for.
Right.
I felt fine. I came to your office. You told me this number's bad, and you told me this pill would fix it. And I'm taking the pill every day, and it's fixed. That person's not as easy to cure as somebody with documented, established heart disease, diabetes, that feels bad. So I think feeling bad is the main thing. The problem is that a lot of us don't realize we feel bad. We think we just work too hard. We don't realize that a lot of it is...
Tired all the time.
We're tired all the time. We work too hard, life's busy, we're running carpool. But really, it's the food, or at least consider the possibility that it's the food, right? It's so easy. I mean, how hard is it for 1 week to give it a shot? 1 week out of your life. I mean, I counted so someone asked me earlier about the oldest patient that I'd done this with, like 83 years old. And I sat there with him. He was saying, no. I sat with him and I calculated 1 week was what percent of his life. And it was such an infinitesimal percent of his life that I got him to do it. And so, and then, you know, it's like you're hooked. It's, you know, it's the gateway drug to health.
So,
Eating it, you know.
how old's your youngest?
My youngest patient has followed it. Probably hardcore following it in their 30s. Because very often young people, it takes the diagnosis of disease to make you do it. There are a lot of people who have come to me and they're doing it for ethical reasons. They're doing it because of animal cruelty or their special diet for whatever reason. But to really make a change from carnivore to omnivore with an emphasis on plants, it's tough. It's tough if you don't have an impetus, a powerful impetus to do so.
I heard no oils. What about olive oil?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, you know, like I said earlier, I think the movie was cut together to an hour and a half, probably from dozens and dozens of hours of footage. And the low or no oil aspect is garnered from a lot of the established heart disease reversal. And so no or minimal oils for someone with heart disease is probably the way to go because there's really nothing to be gained from the oil. It's not providing the essential amino acids. It's not providing anything specifically. So for people with severe heart disease, you know, oils are probably not a good idea. So low oil.
You're not gonna lose weight,
But
eat more.
not even with olive oil? Like, I thought it was reversed.
Yeah, you know, so olive oil is a good question. I get that all the time because of its association with the Mediterranean diet studies. And I guess my short, simple answer to that is, in all the diets looking at and advocating for the Mediterranean diet, they eat mostly plants, okay? They do eat animal food, but it's mostly plants. And they eat lots of olive oil, and they also eat lots of canola oil. And, you know, canola oil is high in omega-3s, low in omega-6s, high in the good fats, low in the bad fats. Olive oil is probably somewhere in the B+ range, but you know, I don't think any of those studies ever drew a distinct correlation between olive oil good health equals good health. It just, those people, that was one of the factors in the Mediterranean diet, which is a largely plant-based diet. So, okay, there are some hands up over in the back here.
There was some questions about cheese and chocolate. How about alcohol?
Another plant-based baby. Yeah. So you asked about alcohol, and you know, that's a tough question to answer. I was kind of hoping not to get that one. Let's leave it like this. Alcohol is plant-based, but when you're, you know, like anything, and we're talking about moderation, with chocolate moderation, alcohol moderation. It's a hard question to answer. What exactly? So, are you asking how much alcohol should a person drink, or is there one alcohol better than another alcohol?
I guess I'm just asking if it would interfere with the whole idea of how this would work. It, you know, in moderation, not an alcoholic, 1 or 2 glasses of wine a week. Is that going to interfere with how this, you know, the plant-based diet should work?
Sure. That's okay. So that's a much easier question to answer. Will alcohol affect your ability to lose weight, reverse diabetes, reverse blood pressure, cholesterol? From my experience, no. I've got so many things I've got to focus on in trying to get somebody to go from driving, getting all their food out of the window, to, you know, actually preparing and thinking about their food, that I don't have time to talk to them about avoiding alcohol in the visit. So most of our first visits is all about food. Then we add exercise. Then we add all the other things to lead a healthy lifestyle. And I see all the tremendous results in my practice and they all do not abstain from alcohol.
Can I add something there?
Sure.
With respect to that, and with respect to an earlier question about organic foods and processed foods, we're talking about the difference between fresh green beans and canned green beans. And alcohol is really a process that you have to go to get there. So it's really not a whole food.
It's not a whole food, right? It's
Yeah.
plant-based, non-whole food.
So maybe that'll be helpful. I mean, it has to be processed. You have to have bacteria, yeast, and is it a plant? Is it an animal? But I mean, it is a processed food or drink. It is processed.
Good point. Out of the back, in the far back.
I'm just curious about the role of supplements. So
You say the world of supplements?
Vitamins,
Yeah.
all of that, because that's such a large part of the supplement industry as well.
Okay.
And the nutrition, just your thoughts on it, and how you find your balance with it.
Sure. So the question is supplements. What's the role for them? How do you find a balance for supplements? Is that basically what you're asking?
Yes.
What supplements would I take, or is someone following a plant-based diet? What supplements would I recommend?
Yes.
Well, again, that's always a individualized basis. I don't believe in blanket summary for everybody, but let me just say that the big giants in this field, like you mentioned, Dr. McDougall, Dr. Furman, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Campbell, Dr. Ornish, they do not agree on this. I think the most common ones you'll see mentioned, the most common vitamins you'll see, or supplements you'll see mentioned as taken are B12, okay? Fish oils, whether they're from fish oil or omega-3s really, because I think most of them advocate for plankton-based omega-3s. So, but fish oils are omega-3s, B12, and vitamin D. Those are the most common ones you see advocated for. There are 0 studies that look for these. I can tell you from looking at my blood levels or some of my colleagues that do the same. I don't think any of us have been anywhere close to B12 deficient or vitamin D deficient. But vitamin D might be the one that I probably have the most patients taking. So I guess the best way to answer, sometimes if I haven't gotten the question before, I don't know exactly how I want to answer it. So let me say this. Vitamin D is probably the one I have most patients taking. Vitamin B12 might be the one I recommend more because it's so harmless, prophylactically, with the possibility that it might help. Fish oil is probably the one I hear prescribed most that I can't believe I actually need to take because I eat chia seeds and flax seeds and all these things. I'm refusing to believe that I really need to supplement it.
Right.
So.
I have a follow-up to that, which is I have heart disease in my family, and my dad's 83, and he's like almost completely blocked. So I'm going to issue a challenge for him to come see you. On another note, when I was in my checkup, I asked, I went to see a cardiologist for preventive, and I said, well, I got some calcium marker that indicated that I might be at risk for heart disease. So should I be taking calcium for osteoporosis? And he said, no, you shouldn't be taking any calcium. And so I stopped taking the calcium, and I mean, that's another of the big vitamins. And I thought that I started to feel bad in different ways. And so anyway, my point is, to your point, reputable cardiologists don't know much about vitamins. And I've since started taking calcium again, and someone told me that dietary calcium is totally different than the calcium deposits that get in your veins and in your arteries, I guess. I would love some clarification on that.
All right, so the question is about whether you should take calcium or not, and whether the calcium in, are you referring to the heart scan? The X-ray heart scan that you had done, or what
Yes,
test were you?
like
Was it a blood test or a heart scan?
no, it was like
Like an X-ray?
yeah, heart scan.
Yeah, so great. So the question is, do you need to take calcium? And there is a test called a electron beam CAT scan that detects calcium in the arteries, in the coronary arteries. And calcium is a surrogate marker for atherosclerosis because our body uses calcium in the repair of plaque, or the stabilization of plaque. So in the technology called an electron beam CAT scan, or the heart scan, the more calcium it detects in the arteries, the more likely you are, or the bigger atherosclerotic burden, or more heart disease you have. That doesn't mean you have imminent blockage. That just means there is a lot of atherosclerotic plaque that your body has made an attempt to solidify, to stabilize, to prevent from progressing. it is not because that person had too many calcium supplements or drank too much milk. Or that's part of the body's natural physiologic repair process. And needing to take calcium is irrespective of that.
I was pretty astounded that he's a reputable cardiologist, and he could not make that connection. He thought that dietary calcium or calcium supplements would contribute to calcium in the arteries. So if anyone ever has that question, don't stop taking your calcium pills.
Okay, in the back.
In Houston, we have a begging society called the Peace Society. And there's a big dinner we're going to have June 6th. And so you can go to the website, the PEAC of Houston.
Peace of Houston?
They have cooking classes.
Org or com or info? .org.com?
.org. Peace.org.
Gotcha.
And it's peas like the vegetable.
PEAC.
Peace like peace. Not like the little green lagoon.
So is it possible to go from hating vegetables to eating like this? Just for half fun?
Is it possible to go from hating vegetables
Like
to
never
eating
eating
like this?
vegetables your whole life to changing your whole lifestyle? Just to
This is, go ahead.
Just your taste buds change, so just like all skin cells on your body rejuvenate, skin cells in your tongue will too. And like to was Sinandra, what was her name?
Yeah, Sandera.
Sandera, she was saying, you know, I ate a peach and I couldn't believe how sweet it was. Like eating a lot of processed foods, like you're not truly tasting real food. So when you kind of get off of that and start tasting real food again, like you appreciate more, you understand the sweetness of a pea or a peach or whatever it is.
I'd piggyback on that by saying, go to the farmer's market and get here in Houston and get the peaches are in season, strawberries, and some of the other vegetables, and taste those and see if they don't taste differently than what you ever thought the produce that you would buy in the grocery store tastes.
And so you don't drink any Diet Cokes or like your all water?
Water, unsweetened tea. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you know,
It's a huge change.
it is a big change. You know, one step at a time. Add plants first, and then worry about getting rid of some of the extra baggage, right? Go ahead.
And what do you
Emily?
think about
Thank you.
fermented and cultured foods?
So yeah, so fermented. So we're talking like about drinks like kombucha, kimchi. These are and tempeh.
Miso.
Yeah. So fermented and cultured foods. So I incorporate a lot of them into my diet. It is my understanding that they help establish the right gut bacteria, and in these gut bacteria, we are synthesizing B12, a vitamin that people are told to supplement with or inject into themselves. So I don't know all the 100% science behind it, but those are all plant-based foods, and I incorporate them heavily in my diet and advocate for them. And one of the reasons is establishing a proper gut flora, and B12 production is definitively produced by the bacteria that are facilitated by this.
A friend of mine, I happen to be Korean, and a friend of mine who's Korean, she's saying there's this, I don't know, some doctor or somebody was saying that the reason that there's a lot of Koreans who are getting some kind of cancer, and she said they're saying it's because they're eating too much kimchi, which is culture. So we should stay away from culture food. But I don't know, I see the other side more what you're saying.
Yeah.
But she was saying, so look into that. Do you know anything about that?
No, I would. I'm not Korean, so and I've never been to Korea, so I don't know much about their culture, how much they smoke, and all these other environmental factors that with their pollutants are. So I couldn't answer. I could just tell you that I advocate for fermented foods in my own diet and my patients' diet, but they're an acquired taste, and they're one of the things that you'll have to either learn to love or learn to hate, and don't try them just once. That's why I tell my patients, when you go to the grocery store or the farmer's market, always try one plant that you've never tried before, and if it's a plant you've had before, try to cook it a different way than you ever tried to cook it before. And it's just about
So when you come to your office, you give guidelines for all of this. You test our cholesterol, you give guidelines.
Right, proper screening,
what I want you to
evaluation,
eat,
and hopefully a little bit of TLC and hand-holding.
Okay, that's good.
Right. Okay, good.
On that note, can we just go around and save some of our favorite restaurants or dishes that could really convince people how good this stuff tastes?
Sure, maybe I'll learn.
Could I start?
Yeah, great.
At Central Market, the kale salad. It is
Stephanie, how does that compare to the snap kale salad?
Snap kale salad is olive oil, sorry, red pepper flakes, garlic, and lemon.
A little bit of salt sounds good, a little bit also.
Anyone have any favorites they want to share? We'll start here.
I went on a real strict candida diet about a year ago, and had to take a road trip, and quinoa was the main staple, and we were eating quinoa all the time. We had it in a separate dish, and then we stopped at a roadside, and then integrated the vegetables
Sure.
and the lettuce and everything, so we have our salad. But what's interesting is that most people don't know what quinoa is.
Quinoa.
So when we talk about it, it's really important to inform people what it is.
Sure.
Because, and how it looks. Because when I went to the grocery store, one time I went to a non-Whole Foods store, and it was in like a Fiesta, but nobody knew what it was. And so it was a major undertaking to go looking for the quinoa.
Yeah, so you're advocating for quinoa, which is technically a seed, but it's considered a grain. We cook it like a grain. And it is, it's high in protein, about 18% by weight.
You can eat it for cereal, you can make a stew with it,
Yep.
you can put it on your salad. I mean, it's so diverse, you can make a dessert with it, like put coconut, you cook it in a coconut.
Yep. Cup of quinoa, half a cup of salsa, mix and eat.
You can do lots of stuff with it, but you can put it in your scrambled eggs if you want to eat eggs. But I really like eating eggs, because I always can be low in protein. I don't know what I'm going to do about that, but every morning, just about, I chop up fresh kale and I take an onion and just do a real quick saute with just a very little bit of olive oil, and then in a non-stick skillet, and then I throw the egg in there, and then some fresh tomato, and
So it's very, in the back you had something you want to share?
The best vegan restaurant in Houston is the Pepper Tree over on
Westland and Richmond.
Richmond and Wesleyan. It's all you can eat, $10. It's all organic, miso soup, 50 things to choose from. And weekends it's $12, and you get a dessert free. Heavenly.
So, the pepper tree?
Tree.
That's probably the most common answer that people say. I think, I guess some of my other favorites, I think the food is maybe more my style and more what I advocate for, would be Radical Eats over north of downtown. Pondicherry has Meatless Monday. Every Monday they serve no meat, all vegetables. If you want to fine dine or elevated cuisine on a date or impress somebody or just be treated special, like that you're not ordering your food as an afterthought off the side dish menu. Oxheart here in Houston doing a 4-course tasting menu of plant-based.
where
So,
is that?
Nance Street, also north of downtown.
Backstreet Cafe has Meatless Monday.
Backstreet Cafe's Meatless Monday as well.
Where is it? Backstreet Cafe has Meatless Monday. There's 3 vegetarian items at Bird and Bear. If you were familiar with Greasy's Table. And if you go to the second restaurant called Bird and Bear, there's 3 vegetarian items there.
I guess we could go to Yelp or something and tell us all the vegan restaurants.
And Ruggles Green has some really good options. Ruggles Green.
Field of Green is great. Ruggles Green actually, if will even cook, if you walk in there and what you thought you wanted is on the menu, for the most part, if you ask them to just make you a grilled or steamed vegetable platter, they will. Or at least my wife, they will because they think he's cute maybe, but I think they will for most people.
They always have a raw salad and a daily vegetable plate at Ruggles Green.
I want to also say, because the biggest obstacle people tell me they have is, I'm on the go, I'm driving carpool, I'm working, I'm picking people up, where can I get quick and easy food? And there's stuff at all grocery stores. The problem is you have to navigate the no-nos. There's some grab-and-go places, like we were talking about Snap Kitchen earlier, that really have, plant-based stuff that is tasty, adventurous, not bland, and they use ingredients that you might have never had before and will introduce you to new foods. I mean, that's really what you want. You want to be continually introduced to new foods to expand your horizon. Otherwise, you're eating the same thing
And
over.
be willing to pay more for it. I mean, that's just part of the course. Would you rather pay for drugs or pay for good food?
Pay now or pay later, right? Good.
You just have to just ask. ask. Like I met my sisters at Woodrow's, and they don't have a vegetable on the menu, and then they brought out steamed veggies. I mean, she even told me they were gonna do that, and I was like, can we wrap it in lettuce? And she was like, what? I don't get it. And she and the chef figured something out, and there were steamed vegetables on my plate.
Great. That's,
But to ask.
you gotta ask, right? You gotta stand up. Go ahead.
I don't know if anyone here is from that Easton co-op that they're starting, but you probably heard about it, have you heard about it?
Which one specifically? Because there's so many CSAs and cooperative gardens these days.
Is
So
it Urban Harvest? No, this is one that is going to be started in East End. I think it's across from U of H on that side of the freeway. And I went to their initial meeting, and I kind of backed out from it because I just retired, and they were so intense on doing things. But they said the closest true co-op is in Austin. So this one is going to be, the girl that's heading it up has already gone to all the farmers around to find out if they can supply the food. Because in this true co-op, they're going to have a building that they will have. And they did a survey at the East End, and I guess if you're on food stamps, they'll give you twice as much vegetables, which is really nice, you know. And so I think I don't know how far it is until it really happens. I mean, this girl that's heading it up has already got grant money in order to do this, that, and the other, you know. So it's a really exciting thing that's going to happen. And I didn't realize that, you know, when they say co-op, there's a lot of them around. And I think it's different than this one that can actually be a business and you buy a share in it.
yeah, co-ops are great because they also support local farmers, right?
Woodduck Farms is another co-op.
Yeah, Woodduck Farms has a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture Program. Rawfully Organic is another pretty popular co-op that has delivery, you know, drop-offs around Houston. So that's
Is it true that you own it though? Like these are co-op people are going to own a portion of this, and you'll make shareholders. Yeah. If you're a shareholder and you bought your share, I don't know how much they are, then you will be, you know, you'll get a profit from it. You know, it's like I guess a business, but.
And when the drought comes, do you share in the losses too?
No, my first question was, how are you going to find enough food to year round in Houston, even with these farmers around here to supply? They said that they can guarantee that if they tell the farmer that we're going to buy from you every week.
Check out, you know, Google's your friend. Google, you know, Houston CSA, Houston food co-ops, Houston farmers markets. Get out there and experience it. Go visit the farms. I've been to most of the farms that are at the farmers market. Meet your farmer. Find out how they think their produce should be cooked. I mean, it's all about getting out on your feet and getting immersed in the culture. You can't sit at home and think that plant-based diets are going to, you know, come.
They'll go into your window.
When you say you went to the farmers market, you're talking about the one right on Richmond?
I mostly go on Saturday mornings to the Eastside Farmers Market, Urban Harvest Eastside Farmers Market mostly, but you know, depending upon what day of the week and what I need, I'll stop in some other places. And there's some retail outlets now that sell some local farmers stuff, like if you're in the Heights in the neighborhood here, Revival Market has a lot of the same farmers selling their produce at the farmers market who have drop-offs. And so, yeah.
And find a community garden near you and start growing.
Start your own community garden, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got stuff growing in my yard, but I don't have enough room and sun for certain things, so I just found out in my neighborhood behind Uncle Montrose and by HSPDA, or in that general area, up between West Alabama and West Summer, there's going to be, in Stanford, there's going to be a community garden. A guy bought a lot and is doing the plumbing line and water line, and people can have shares costs that pay a monthly fee to have, and you can split a plot.
Investing in your own health.
Yeah, and that's like a few blocks from my house, and keeps you engaged with the community, especially learning.
Community, right? That's the.
So it's got so many relevant things about it.
I guess, you know, there's two different communities now, right? There's the community around us where we go and garden together, and there's the our online communities. And I think to be successful in this endeavor, both are pretty helpful. So, yeah. All right, I think I got all your questions, so thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that was good.